This past winter, our church was in an interesting place. We were moving towards a new governance structure because we'd recently become incorporated. And within that structure, we would be having a new board and new teams. We were also eager to keep asking ourselves where God was leading us in our church, not just to be thinking about structure, but about His vision for us. And as we were trying to claim that vision, we also had the chance to meet with Greg and the TrueCity team and learn more about the Missional Development Project. And as part of that project, we engaged in a discernment process. Over 2 Sundays with our church, we used some questions and ideas provided by them to allow our church to share stories from the past that meant a lot to them, where they felt engaged in God's mission, and to consider where they felt God calling us in future, what was important to them. And it was amazing how similar the themes that came from our church were about where they sensed God was leading, what they were excited to be a part of, and what they wanted our church to keep doing.
In the spring, we had some great dialogue and some momentum was being built as to what God might be doing on our midst. And now, as we move into the fall and beyond, we've seen teams emerge with great leaders and people that are willing to engage in various activities and bring some focus to the energy that's there. And that's really exciting to be a part of and to see as teams and people, as individuals, get a vision, a picture of what God is doing.
We happen to have a daycare that rents our church space, and we also have a daycare that is part of our church, and we make up the board and so on that daycare. Oftentimes, we hear people talk about wanting to connect more to the families of those child care centers. And as people were talking about wanting to reach families in our community, we had a light bulb moment of realizing we had all these families that are connected to our church already, but we have a really minimal relationship with. So hearing people say they want to care for families, that they want to care for families specifically in this neighborhood and meet those physical needs, one of the things our missional team followed through on that we're going to be doing in a couple months is a clothing giveaway. And our church is going to be collecting clothing, and we're going to be inviting families from these child care centers, many of whom we know are subsidized families and lower income families, on an evening to just walk through our church and help themselves to clothing that they need. And our church is already very excited about this. We are still continuing on that journey, but we're very grateful to be able to draw from the voices of our church and to not get caught up in many great ideas, but to focus specifically on how God has been using us and how we sense God is continuing to use us.